Hey guys, Justin down here, American Mustang School. I'm here with Sunshine, a little Mustang. And what I'm about to share with you, most people will never understand, which is okay. The way they would understand it is through experience. You know, I can give them a sense of something on a video or in a book, but until it's experienced, it's never really understood its true essence. So, Sacred Art of Horsemanship. It's a set-apart practice of self-study, self-mastery. It's a pretty cool thing with a horse as an accountability partner. So we get to practice with a horse, developing our character, and that's a really cool thing. I think one of the most missed opportunities in horsemanship is to ascend in a conscious awareness for both you and the horse. It's something you can do together, essentially rising above your perceived limitations based on programming and conditioning. So this was a wild horse. He was captured out of the wild, living on grasslands, eating grass, pooping, procreating, hanging out with his friends, doing what horses do. And in inviting him into the human element, I don't want to interrupt anything this horse is in nature. I don't want to obstruct it. I don't want to cause an irritation or create any restrictions in his mind or tensions in his body to interrupt our flow in the relationship. So, set apart practice of self-study, I've got to become what it is I want to see the horse become as far as character development. So you think about things in terms of like our voice, the vibrations in our voice, the sound, our body. How does this horse perceive me? How do I perceive myself? How far apart are those? So it's shedding season. I don't know if you can tell, but this horse, he's, it's spring, he's shedding. The old hair's coming off, new hair coming in. It's pretty cool. But getting back to that awareness, our breath, breathing, our sound and our voice, vibrational frequencies, how we're talking, how we're moving, what we're thinking, what we're doing, thought and action. That's an energy exchange. And horses understand energy exchange. They understand vibrational frequencies in your voice, the tone that you're using to talk. I wanted to share something pretty cool with you that I learned in the mountains of Colorado. And it was not by intention of learning this. It's just kind of an effect of a cause. And what it was is I would get with horses and I'd play with them. And I wouldn't talk for like 3 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. 2 days. One time I was in the mountains with a horse and going through our Sacred Art of Horsemanship, the set apart practice of self-study where I basically check out me, present myself to the horse, observe feedback from the horse, make necessary changes to create the most desirable results in the relationship. Well, I went out on the mountains to scout a new area for camping and hunting. And it was one of those things with a horse for 2 solid days, spent the night, set up camp, highline the horse, went back into town, and I had to go to a store to buy something. And, there's people, and I heard my voice for the first time in like a 2-day period. And it was like, wow, it just surprised me. It was interesting. So understanding how impactful your voice can be, in vibrational frequency, in the relationship with your horse or with your, other people. It's important to understand that, how impactful that can be. It brings into other questions. If someone, like your name, someone doesn't call out your name for like 8 years, would you forget your name? And what that brings into kind of an understanding or perspective is like how we use our voice, our sound, how other people use their voice, their sound, those vibrations. And in our name, it's somebody calls out your name. It's pretty important to realize our name is just a name. It doesn't limit us to anything. And what I'm getting at is, as we come into Earth, for the first 7 years, there is programming and conditioning. Our name is called out like how many times, and then what does it mean? Like, what's the underlying factor? Is somebody's calling out your name in a tone of, say, anger, and they're always angry, and they always call your name out in anger. What kind of effect is that going to have on you as far as a perceived? So anytime they take a deep breath, you take a deep breath. That synchronizes your energy, because we're doing energy exchange. My heart rate, his heart rate, my breathing, his breathing, my muscles, his muscles. And getting back to that, someone calling out your name, what kind of vibrational frequency are they projecting or presenting to you? How are you perceiving that? Sunshine's name is Sunshine, and I talk with him, call out his name. If I'm aware of my vibrational tone and my voice when I talk with him, and then it's an awareness thing, and then it's like, wow, if I'm always frustrated and I'm always saying his name in a frustrated tone, how is he going to perceive me? How is he going to perceive himself in our relationship? And it's one of those things that it doesn't, you wouldn't think it matters, right? You're like, it's a horse. He doesn't really understand his name. But he does understand the tone and the vibration and the frequency and the repetitive way that we use his name. So the point is, how do we remember who we are? What season are we in our horsemanship? Everything's in seasons and cycles. And it's important to understand that your horsemanship, you're going to go through seasons. You're going to go through cycles. An easy way to remember this is, say, the 4 seasons. We'll start with spring. Then you go to summer, then you go to fall, then you go to winter. Well, that's a long span for a person to really kind of grasp. But break those 4 seasons down into one day. Say your morning is your spring, your midday is your summer, your evening is your fall, and then your night is your winter. And winter kind of represents a death. You go to sleep, it's kind of symbolic to you die. You're a new person when you wake back up. It's like this hair coming out after winter, dead hair. And then in spring, you get some new hair. It's a birth, death, a renewing. It's real important in understanding these cycles and these seasons. So, it'll have an effect on your relationship, whether you're aware of it or not. So it's like this. You see this hair that's pulling off of him? It could cause him to be itchy, maybe a little uncomfortable. Maybe he's rubbing on my body with his head, like telling me I'm itchy and I need to give me some comfort, scratch my head. Well, it could change energy exchange. I may have a preconceived notion, and then it brings into my awareness, oh, this is a little different. He's not paying attention, he's not concentrating, he's a little itchy. So let's help him not be itchy, let's help him get comfortable. It's interesting whenever you can go inward, and understand thought and emotion as an inward pathway of communication. Whatever I think about, I bring about. So if I'm an awareness, if I'm developing an awareness, through my character development, and I pay attention to what time of the day it is, as far as the season. Maybe Sunshine in the morning, he's cold and restricted a little bit, we'll call it. And then midday, he's relaxed and unrestricted. And then the evening, it kind of returns again. And that's just one example. The point of it is when we're trying to create a relationship with a horse and we're not aware of the season that we're in the actual, spring, summer, fall, winter, or the day, how much energy exchange, what's the connection like, how grounded are we, how efficient and effective is this relationship going to be in energy exchange based on the time of year or the time of day. All of these things come into a why in character development. And what we think about, we bring about. What our understanding of those are, as our perception, what do we perceive, is going to definitely determine the outcome in our experience. And it's like something simple as hot or cold. Is the horse, is it a hot day or is it a cold day? That's one contrast example, one extreme to the other. But there's all kinds of degrees in between that. Those are things to bring into our awareness in this relationship. It's a choice. It's a matter of understanding, well, it's cold. My body awareness of it being cold is I don't move as freely as I would if it was warm. My efficiency and effectiveness of connecting with my horse, communicating with my horse is going to change. And it matters. It matters for energy exchange. It brings into an awareness. We understand contrast. Then we understand choice. And one of the real important lessons I could give you is guard your energy like you would guard your money. You're not going to spend it unwisely. You're not going to let it drain off without, you knowing. But sometimes in the seasons, we can allow our energy to get drained off. We can already go into something thinking, I don't like winter. It's horrible. It's frustrating. Well, you're already going into that energy exchange with your horse or another person or a situation where you're at a disadvantage. And if you bring into awareness, well, winter does slow me down. It is a little bit more restrictive, so to speak. And these are my terms. I got to wear a big heavy coat. I'm kind of stiff in my shoulders because I'm cold. The energy exchange with my horse and I is going to be different than if, a day like today where I don't have to wear a restrictive coat. My muscles aren't tense because it's warm. And that awareness can help you move mountains, so to speak. And, I can give you that analogy. I can move this 1,000-pound horse with a pinky and, just limited energy exchange to get the response that we're after. But if I'm not aware of my energy, and how I'm thinking and how I'm feeling and thought and emotion, it's going to be really difficult to go external, go outward in communication. And the external pathway with attitude and action. If I'm cold and restricted and I'm not aware my attitude is drawn in and not delivering good energy exchange, then it's going to be more difficult to create the relationship that I'm after or develop the character that I truly desire. And when I started out explaining, most people won't understand this. If you've never played with a horse, if you've never gone through an interactive system to get desirable results, predictable results, it's going to be really difficult to understand. You get a sense of it, but until you get the experience, does that feel good, buddy? Yeah, he's itchy. Belly. You won't get the true essence. It's just impossible. And, shedding season, all my horses are losing their hair, they're shedding. It just brings into like thinking in association. This dead hair, it's going to leave, new hair growing in. Well, some of the habits that I had maybe subconsciously created over the winter, I want to shed those, get rid of them. I want to open. I want to understand energy exchange, how important that is in horsemanship and in life and character development. Because whatever we think and do, we become. Whatever we become, we form habits. Those habits define our character. And we have the ability to transcend or rise above those perceived limitations. Consciously do it. And it's a remarkable power. It's a superpower. It's an interesting concept. And it's something that has to be, as we spoke of in the first part of this video, practiced and put into your daily renewal ritual, renewing of the mind, the body, the spirit. These Mustangs, man, they will communicate with you in ways that I could never portray on a video. But this guy taking deep breaths, and you hear that Mustang roll, he's letting us know, yeah, this is relaxing. This is something that he really can get comfortable and enjoy. And he may not have started out too comfortable. I literally went and got him out of his pen, led him up to this iron rail here, hit go on that video, and just started brushing him. And it's one of those things, whatever we think and do and how we talk in a tone, vibrational frequency, bring into awareness of where we are. Where are we in our season, today? It's approaching midday, which would be the summer, coming out of spring. And it's an awareness that we can develop. How does our horse respond to our energy in the seasons of the day? How is the energy exchange between us? How's it working? What do I need to become aware of? What do I need to change? What do I need to get better at presenting so that this relationship can rise up into the levels that we truly want to ascend into? Man, he has a beautiful mane. Really want to get that knots out, make it prettier. But just breathing and moving with our horse and developing a way or a pathway to go inward to ourselves and ask these questions. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? What is my attitude? What are my actions? What do I got to think about to bring about? How does my horse perceive me? How do I perceive myself? How far apart is that? And then practice it. Keep going. Keep moving. And you'll start to discover things that you cannot imagine. You cannot train into your horse. They will do things for you that you cannot train them to do. You will discover things about yourself that it's really tough to put into words, but you will discover things you didn't even know or intend to go discover. And it's one of those beautiful experiences. So this particular horse, his name's Sunshine. If you've read my book, you kind of understand what he's about. But I wouldn't have been prepared for a horse of this caliber a few years before I got him. See, he's one of those horses that commands that you go in to yourself and understand yourself and master yourself and be responsible for what you're thinking and doing. And if you're not, he lets you know. He's one of those horses that he has a very strong survival instinct. He thinks and he analyzes things in life and death. It's very serious to him. He's just not going to sell out, so to speak. He's going to definitely let you know that he's very well aware of what you're presenting, And if it's not in alignment with what he thinks is important, in other words, if it's not of benefit to him, he's not going to have it. A horse like this could never be forced to submit with pain or fear. He's going to definitely rebel from that. He will rise above, perceived limitations. In other words, the programming and conditioning of traditional training practices, he would go way above that and be like, no, we're not doing that. And that's really remarkable. People can do that too. I was programmed and conditioned at a small age in a lot of things that I've risen above and realized, oh, those are just my perceived limitations that were put upon me by society or an education system or a financial system. It's like, no, I can do it this way, do it different, kind of swim against the current, so to speak. He's like that. He's like, no. You really got to pay attention to what you're thinking and doing. And if we're going to create a harmonic balance, an agreement, I want you to develop an awareness. I want your character to continue to develop in a conscious awareness, ascend, become better and better and better and better. He's kind of like a horse that's like, slow down, you're burning too much energy, it's unnecessary. Every time I thought to go more, he would respond with, you need to go less. And then I would recalibrate, present again, and it would be so smooth and efficient. And it's like the changings of the seasons. It's not real abrupt. It doesn't have edges. Your spring doesn't just jump into summer. It's a transition period. Summer doesn't just go into fall. It's a transition period. There's these cycles and there's peaks and valleys, and it's an interesting way to look at things. It's like birth and then death, rebirth, death. Leaves falling off trees, and then they grow new leaves, and this hair leaves and comes back. It's a transition period. So character development's the same thing, but we have to develop an awareness of like, what season are we in for this energy exchange? How could it be more efficient and effective to create the best connection? Are we grounded? Those are all things that the sacred art of horsemanship reveals to us. And when I say I couldn't train him to give me that information, I couldn't. It all starts with me. I have to think and do and become, form habits, create a character, present that to him, observe feedback, and be willing to make necessary changes through this interactive system to get desirable results. And then we collectively over time get a deeper understanding of ourselves, deeper understanding of the horse. He gets a deeper understanding of himself in the human element, the human relationship. And then it's just this beautiful conscious awareness that we have developed. And then his character changes, my character changes. It's life enriching. The energy exchange becomes an understanding of what is real, which is real power. And I mentioned moving mountains. I mentioned moving this 1,000-pound horse with a pinky finger. Just saying stuff like that in words, it's kind of hard to understand. But whenever you can play with a 1,000-pound horse and you can literally ask him with your little pinky finger to move, and he does, it's like, wow, we can really imagine or envision ourselves doing something, becoming something, and then actually manifest that into a reality. Again, whatever you think about, you bring about. I just showed you a little grooming session. We call it grooming for mindset. It's where I'll go inward and assess, make an assessment. What am I thinking about? How am I feeling? Do I have an emotion motivating a thought? Do I have a thought motivating emotion? Or is it vice versa? Is it both? Just make an assessment. What season are we in? How is that affecting my thoughts, my emotions? And that's just internal. pathway of communication. Then we go external, attitude, action. If you've read my book, thought, emotion, attitude, action. Internal, external pathway of communication really helps bring in an awareness. But what season are we in? That's important. It's a question you must ask. What season are you best at energy exchange? Do you like the summer better? Is that where you're most efficient, most effective? Winter, spring, fall? Doesn't matter. It's just an awareness. So, hopefully that helps you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye, sunshine.